contrarian and an MSNBC political analyst. She's also the author of Resistance, How Women Save Democracy from Donald Trump. And Tom Nichols, staff writer at The Atlantic and author of several books, including Our Own Worst Enemy, The Assault from Within on Modern Democracy. Good morning to both of you. Hey, Tom, I'm going to start with this because everybody who talks about John Bolton says the same thing. Been interviewing him for years. I pretty much agree with him on nothing. I have no idea what was in his garage or in his house or his office. Don't know if any of these people who are accused of doing anything have done any of those things. But I'm a guy who can read a pattern, and the patterns here seem pretty obvious.
Right. Two things. One is you could take almost anybody in senior government service who's had access to a lot of classified information and make a plausible case to a judge to say, you know, I bet somewhere in his house he screwed up and there's a classified document, you know, under a coffee cup somewhere. The way Vance talked about it, he said, yeah, that's part of it, but we just want to take a look. Basically, this is now, it seems, and I'm only going on what the vice president said, it's almost like a fishing expedition. We're just going to poke around and see if this guy has any dirt in his background. That's not the way the American system works, but I don't think that Vance or Trump, leading the most un-American, most anti-constitutional, most lawless administration in American history, really care about that. But, you know, the initial idea that a man who wrote a memoir and fought with the government about whether or not it needed to be cleared, yeah, you know, there's a prima facie case. You could say, we just want to poke around. But normally that's done by contacting the target's lawyers and saying, we'd like to have a discussion. This is how it was done with Trump. This is how it was done with Biden, with others, you know, going back to the 90s with people who worked in places like the CIA. The CIA director back then had a similar situation. It's not usually done with raiding a guy's house at 6 o'clock in the morning.
While the FBI
attempt at intimidation.
While the head of the FBI was tweeting about it, like it was wild. It was like an OJ chase.
Right.
Jennifer, I'm going to lean into the lawyer in you for a second, because I think this has got to be very early on in one's legal career or legal training to understand that it's weird that the vice president would sort of suggest this is a fishing expedition, right? There are broad concerns about John Bolton. If there's nothing here for him to be charged, then there won't be any charges. What a strange thing to say in the wake of an actual FBI raid on someone's offices, right? He could have just stopped at, I'll let the FBI comment on that, or I've got nothing to do with this, or I've got nothing to say. But he walked, like Kristen asked him a question, and he answered it.
This is like a law school exam. How many things are wrong with this investigation? And I put it in quotes because we don't know if there really is an investigation or there's just a raid. First of all, the president of the United States, the vice president, the FBI shouldn't be commenting on anything. What happened to the policy that we don't comment on investigations? Secondly, as we have said, John Bolton has appeared on an enemies list. The president said he wasn't a fan. They maliciously took away his security detail. They revoked his security clearance. Gosh, does it seem like he's being singled out? I would think so. So there is something in the law called the presumption of regularity. Courts in the old days, like 4 years ago, used to assume that when government lawyers and government officials came before them, they were acting in good faith, they were telling the truth, that the affidavits submitted in support of a raid or a search warrant were truthful. On what basis can we presume any of this is in good faith? And I think we have to begin to presume bad faith, irregularity, because the facts are everywhere. You listed a bunch of those, and that's like a fraction of the people that they have gone after and the bizarre things that they have done, including pardoning the J6 felons, including firing the people who prosecuted the J6 felons. None of this is done in good faith, and I think the courts have to begin to act very skeptically and demand a much higher level of proof before they sign off on warrants, before they accept indictments, before they do anything.
You know, Tom, you could, I'm not saying we can't justify it, but you can see why he would target Adam Schiff. You can see why he would target Letitia James. The Fed governor was very confusing to me. I'm an economics guy, and I didn't know much about this Fed governor at all. But she's a Democrat, and he wants to, you know, fill the Fed board. But the John Bolton thing should be instructive to people. He was on Trump's team. Trump wanted to make him the Secretary of State. He was Donald Trump's national security advisor. He was in until he was out.
Yeah, this whole thing, people keep trying to do the call back to Germany in the 1930s. To me, maybe because I spent so much time studying it and being there, this to me is like the Soviet Union in the 1950s. This is, you've run afoul of the party, comrade, and now you're going to be investigated for your unpatriotic and anti-party like tendencies, cooperating with foreign imperialists, and all these kind of crazy show trial charges. I mean, this whole thing is just, it's hard. I know it's hard for people to take seriously, but Jen's point about the judges, not just judges have to take this seriously. Everybody, citizens, elected officials, because even though these guys come across as clowns, they're clowns with flamethrowers. Which makes them really dangerous. I mean, they have the machinery of government behind them. These are people that normally, would be struggling to hold on to, middle management jobs in a department store somewhere, but they've been elevated to extremely powerful positions with no other recommendation other than that they are loyal to Donald Trump and that they will do anything to get even with people that have been critical of Donald Trump. And, you can see already that Trump is just, he's going to cost a lot of people a lot of money. I mean, this can't be cheap for people like Bolton or Schiff or others. And let's not leave aside Lieutenant General Cruz. Wrecking a guy's career. Simply because he told the truth.
Yes.
I mean, this is really remarkable. We have a whole group of senior generals and admirals whose careers have been turfed simply because Donald Trump didn't like them or because they were women.
I'm glad you brought this up about Cruz, because, Jen, this is a guy with no particular dog in this hunt, right? He was asked to provide an evaluation of how successful a very big, well-publicized attack on Iran by our bunker buster bombs and planes would be. Very important information for the government to know, for the world to know, for journalists to know, for defense people to know. Gave his evaluation of it. There was nothing partisan about it. It was not as glowing as Donald Trump felt the attack was, but it certainly said that they had set Iran's nuclear program back substantially. Boom, gone. Wasn't good enough.
That has been the pattern. That's the pattern in Tulsi Gabbard's firing all kinds of people in top positions. That's been Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon firing a slew of people. That's been the pattern at the Justice Department, firing any kind of whistleblower or truth teller at the Justice Department. Remember what happened to the slew of lawyers who objected to the corrupt bargain with Mayor Adams. And it's true at the FBI, which has had a purge. And by the way, when asked about these, the nominees for these various posts says, oh, no purge going on here, nothing to see, never going to take retribution on people. So there's just a bold-faced amount of lying that is going on. But this is extremely dangerous in multiple ways. First of all, when you have yes men and yes women who are completely incompetent in positions of high authority, that leaves us vulnerable. You couldn't have done more to destroy our national security infrastructure than Putin could possibly have dreamed in his most wild fleets of fantasy. Destroying our national security apparatus, ending the cooperation we have with the Five Eyes that has gone on for decades. So we don't share with them. They're not sharing with us. We are creating a absolute horror and a vulnerability. And we haven't even talked about the people who have been taken off beats of counterintelligence and preventing manipulation of our elections and the rest. He is leaving us a sitting duck because he doesn't care about America. He is there for him, whatever fattens his wallet, whatever gets him further to triumph over his enemies, he will do. And if that means selling America down the river, he will do it every day, ending in a war.
No kidding. Well, thanks to both of you. I appreciate it. Jennifer Rubin, co-founder and editor-in-chief of The Contrarian, and an MSNBC political analyst, author of Resistance, How Women Saved Democracy from Donald Trump. And Tom Nichols, staff writer at The Atlantic and author of several books, including Our Own Worst Enemy, The Assault from Within on Modern Democracy. All right, coming up, California Democrats are setting up a high-profile special election this fall when voters